Welcome to Bled Talk, where language barriers are shattered and aspirations take flight. I'm your host, Samuel Bledsoe, here to ignite your English journey. Each week, join us for captivating conversations between native speakers, unraveling the secrets of vocabulary and expressions through authentic stories and natural dialogue. Let's empower your language skills and embrace the power of communication. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to Bled Talk. This is Sam, and today is going to be a little bit different. I'm actually just going to tell you a little bit about me, where I'm from, and tell you about my story. I feel like I don't get a lot of opportunities to share that with many people, and so I really want to show you guys and tell you a little bit about me. So we'll start off with where I'm from. If you've ever heard of a city called St. Louis in the Midwest of the United States, I live on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River, and I live about 30 minutes away from that city where I used to live, right? Because now I live in Brazil. But I grew up there. I had a pretty normal childhood, you know. Every kid goes through their ups and downs, their difficulties, and then, you know, also the things that they're able to achieve and overcome. And, you know, I went through normal life, and when I was, I think, let's see, how old was I? I was 18. I decided that I was going to serve a mission for my church. And to do this mission, it was a volunteer thing. So I volunteered to serve this mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And during this mission, during the process for the mission, I needed to do a couple tests, make sure that I was healthy and make sure that everything was okay. And I filled out my papers and I said that I wanted to serve. Now, we don't really get to choose where we serve, so I didn't know what was going to happen. But I sent in those papers and I received my call, and they had asked me to volunteer and serve in São Paulo in Brazil. And I did not know any Portuguese. I didn't know anything, and that was scary. That was a very scary thing to me, but I was excited. It was something that I was wanting to do for a long time, something that I have always felt in my heart that I needed to do. So I actually was asked to serve a couple days after my birthday. So I ended up going when I was 19, and I went to São Paulo, and they have a missionary training center. Then they teach you a little bit of Portuguese, but you know, it's for missionaries and it's for doing the basic things, but not a lot of Portuguese. I was lost the whole time. I had no idea what I was saying, what I was doing. I was anxious and nervous. So a lot of you who listen, who have been in meetings where they're speaking and you don't understand, or if you're living in a different country and you don't understand what they're saying, I completely get you. I know what it's like. And so I was there in this training center for 6 weeks. And then after those 6 weeks, we were sent out to the field. And the field is basically just, you know, going out and living in the city and talking to people. And that was really interesting because my first work companion, the first guy that I worked with, he was from a state in Brazil called Ceará. And he didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Portuguese. And so it was a lot of me walking around and asking him, hey, what's this? Hey, what's that? How do I say this? How do I say that? And I was quiet a lot, and I am not a quiet person. I don't like to stay quiet. I like to have conversations. I like to get to know people. And so that was a really difficult thing for me. But I would say after about another 6 weeks, so we're looking at another, you know, about 12 weeks or 3 months, I started to understand how people talk. I started to get it a little bit more, and I was able to communicate and go to the store and buy things and do your normal stuff. And then that was good. It was difficult. And another 6 weeks went by, and I was finally able to have a good conversation. Not the crazy in-depth, fluent conversation, right? But I could tell people what I was feeling, and I could communicate I could make some jokes, and we could both laugh and just have a good time. And so I would say after about 4 or 5 months, I started to feel confident in speaking, but there was still a lot left to do. And during that whole time, it was really difficult to learn the language and to be able to really grasp it and understand. But I continued, I persisted, and something I always tell my students, my English students, is that you can't stop studying. As soon as you stop, that's when you will start to get worse in the language. And some people may tell you, oh, no, that's not true, but it is. It really is something that's important. As soon as you stop, you're going to go back, right? We either say you either progress or you either regress. So in other words, you're either going to go forward or you're going to lose the things that you've learned. And I've felt that so many times with Portuguese. But anyway, I stayed in Sao Paulo for 2 years, and it was a wonderful experience. There was a lot of ups and downs and a lot of very emotional and moving stories that I'll share with you guys at some other time. But it was a great experience. And then I went back to the United States, and my Portuguese was pretty good after about 2 years. But I went back to the United States, and I did not speak a lot of Portuguese. I talked to some friends from Brazil, but I didn't have a lot of contact. And that was pretty intense, because what happened was, I think about 2 months after I went back, we had the pandemic. And for all of you, I'm sure you guys remember the pandemic. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy for everybody. We weren't allowed to go out and do things. And so we just had a lot of home time to do things that we wanted to at home. So I worked, and then I also, I would be online and I would play games and do things. And at one point on Facebook, I met my wife. Well, she wasn't my wife at the time, but I met her and I sent her a message, and she responded, thankfully. And we just kept talking and talking and talking. And after some time, I felt that I needed to go and see her. I needed to meet her. And so during the pandemic, when nobody wanted to travel, I decided to get on a plane and go to Brazil. And I came and visited her and stayed in Brazil for about a week. And we spent every day together trying to learn more about each other, seeing if we really liked each other. And it was amazing. It was a wonderful experience. And I asked her to be my girlfriend at that moment. And when we kept talking, I went back to the United States and kept going through the process. And I returned again. And the second time that I came back, I had asked her to be my wife. And that was a great experience as well. I did it in the airport, actually. I got to Curitiba, and as soon as I saw her, the first thing that I did was propose. And it was a very special experience. And so we stayed together for that week as well. And after that, I went back to the United States, and then I came back for a third time. The third time was officially for me to come to Curitiba and for me to come and live here with my wife. We were going to get married, and we're going to start our life here in Brazil. Now, usually at this time, I get that question of why are you getting married in Brazil? Why not get married in the United States? The short answer to that question is patience and time. It's a lot more difficult to get married in the United States than it is to get married in Brazil. In Brazil, you just have to come here. You have to have a visa, which I had one, and then we got married, and that was it. It was over, right? In the United States, you have to go through a long process, and it can take a year or 2 years. It's pretty difficult to go through. And so we felt that getting married here and then going through the visa process would be the best option. And so we got married. But as soon as we got married, then I had problems with my visa. So I had to figure out all of these things in Brazil, and I actually had to go back to the United States and get some documents. And then I came back, and we finally got my visa, and we said, now we're going to start. We're going to finally do what we need to so that we can go to the United States. And then we found out that my wife was pregnant with our first son, and we thought that it would be a little complicated to do the visa process with a baby who wasn't born yet. And so We waited for him to be born, and then we finally did the visa. But the reason that I teach English is because I married my wife and we decided to live here. And I felt that being in Brazil, I could teach English and probably do pretty well at it, especially because it's very difficult to find native speakers. And I just really like teaching English. When I was living in São Paulo as a missionary, I did some classes and I taught some people, and I really enjoyed it. I never thought that I would become an English teacher, but I ended up becoming one, and it's been a wonderful experience. And what's even crazier is that I wasn't even supposed to do classes as a full-time job. For me, it was going to be something that I would do on the side, and I would continue doing normal life. And then as soon as we got married, my wife and I, my wife lost her job. And when she lost her job, that meant that we needed to find a way to make money and to do it quickly. And so one of the best ways to do that was to devote my time to learning how to teach English better, finding more students, and really just trying to create a good experience for everybody. And so that kind of drove me to build more than just a couple classes. I really wanted to have a system, and I wanted to be able to teach people and have people love class. Not just come to English class, but I wanted them to love it, to enjoy it. And so that has always been like a wonderful part. And that's where we're at now. I'm still trying to build up this English school, this English system. And eventually we'll go back to the United States, but I don't plan on giving up English teaching when I get back. I plan on just continuing forward because I love it so much. And I kind of wanted to spend a little bit of time and tell you guys about my process in learning Portuguese, because I feel like this process can help you with your English study. Because a lot of times people will learn a little bit and then they're like, oh, this is really difficult. I don't know if I can continue or if I can finish. And that's not true, right? There is so much more you can learn, even after you learn a little bit. And it is difficult. It's a very difficult process to go through, but it's something that's very worth it. So with Portuguese, I don't know if you remember, but those 3 months, right? Those 12 weeks that I went through before I could have like a basic conversation, they were terrible. I hated them. I did not feel good. I wasn't happy. And it was just a lot of difficulty. I wanted to go back to the United States. I wanted to be done because it was so difficult. So just for you to have an idea, it's hard. It's very hard. But I'm so glad that I didn't give up, because after those 12 weeks, I was really able to improve and to have a better focus on my Portuguese. And something that helped me was the constant study. Every day I studied. And you may go, oh, well, you lived in Brazil, so you were immersed. It was easier. It helps. But I know plenty of people who live in the United States and have lived there for a long time and still don't speak English. So just because you're immersed doesn't mean you're going to learn. You have to actively look for opportunities to learn. You will never learn English unless you want to learn English. You have to desire it. And that goes with any language, really. You have to want to speak. It doesn't matter if you say, oh, I think it would be really cool. No, you need to desire this. It needs to be something that you internalize. Why? Because when you want something, you do whatever you need to get that. And so that's how you make language learning a priority. You want it, you need it, and you make sure that you do everything that you can to have it. So that's constant study, always looking for challenges. If something is too easy for you, don't do it. Look for something that's more difficult. And then also, going along with that, looking for something that's a little more difficult. What I did that I felt really changed my Portuguese learning was I stopped looking at translations. I started to study the Portuguese dictionary. Every time I didn't understand a word, I looked it up in the dictionary in Portuguese. I didn't look up the translation. And for all the people who are always like, I don't need grammar, I don't want to do grammar. If you want to speak really well, you also need to learn the grammar. And I tell people all the time, I study. This is my study book for grammar. For those of you who are just listening, it's a Nossa Gramática Completa. It's a huge grammar book full of lots of different subjects and topics, and it helps me understand Portuguese more. I still study Portuguese every day because I need to. I don't want to lose what I have. And so constant study, always making sure that you challenge yourself, and then making sure that it becomes an opportunity is what is going to make you improve. So many people see language, or English especially, as a burden. They see it's something that's weighing their shoulders down, and they just don't know what to do. And that's not okay. You can't look at it that way because nobody wants to do them, right? So many people know the story, right? You go somewhere, or let's say you're at home and your mom asks you to wash dishes. You might have washed the dishes, but as soon as she asks you to, you really don't want to. Same thing with English, right? When people tell you to study all the time, you kind of don't want to. But you need to look at it as an opportunity. You need to say, oh, this would be a great way for me to learn. Just so you have an idea, my wife, one time she was looking at openings for a specific job, and there was the same job, and there were two openings. It was the same thing. You did the same thing in both jobs. One of them needed English, and the one that needed English paid almost double the one that didn't. So when you pay for English classes, or when you pay for materials you study, when you look to actively improve, you'll find that you are investing in yourself. Your career in the future is going to be much better because you have that language. And for those of you who already speak English, and you're thinking, oh, well, this isn't for me, it's obviously it is for you as well, because learning another language is just going to make it better. It will always make you better. It will always help you in all the situations. So always look for that opportunity to learn. Don't see it as a burden. And that's a little bit of my story for you guys. I really hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that you all continue to study. Study any language. If you speak English, study something else that's going to help you improve. If you don't speak English, study English. Look on my channel. There's plenty of material, and I plan on putting out a lot more material. But always look to improve your language skills, because it's going to improve your life. You're going to feel much better. All right. Thank you all for listening and for watching. And until next time, this is Bled Talk. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Bled Talk. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us for more content. We are on all of the popular podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we're even on YouTube. Don't forget to send in your questions and your suggestions. Thank you once again, and have a great day.